Chris Eubank Jr. humiliated Conor Benn in the most ruthless way, cracking a raw egg over his face during a heated press conference. A brutal power move that left everyone stunned. Fired up after the humiliating stunt, Conor Benn shot back with a furious response, making it clear he's ready for war. Stated, "That's the only shot you'll land on me, you 2 rounds, you are finished." The press conference exploded as Benn's fiery words sent shockwaves through the room. His rage was clear. He wasn't just here to talk, he was here to destroy. Eubank Jr. smirked, unfazed, as if he had already won the mental battle. The tension between them hit a boiling point, setting the stage for an explosive fight. Fans knew this wasn't just hype, this was real, and someone was going down. But this wasn't just about mind games, it was personal. Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn were originally set to fight in October 2022, but the highly anticipated bout was cancelled when Benn tested positive for banned substances. The controversy sparked intense debates, with Benn spending nearly 2 years fighting to clear his name. In early 2023, the WBC ruled that his failed tests could have been caused by consuming a large amount of eggs, a bizarre twist that only fueled skepticism. After a long legal battle, Benn's suspension was finally lifted in November, allowing him to return to the ring. Now, with their grudge match back on, Eubank Jr. saw the perfect opportunity to take a brutal shot at his rival, both physically and verbally. Eubank posted on X, "Apparently egg contamination was the reason for his 2 failed drugs tests, so I contaminated him with an egg." The comment sent social media into a frenzy, with fans divided over whether it was a stroke of genius or a low blow. Eubank Jr. made it clear he wasn't just mocking Benn, he was exposing what he saw as a scandal that had tarnished the sport. Benn, already furious from the egg-smashing stunt, was now fighting to prove himself in more ways than one. With both fighters out for blood, their upcoming showdown wasn't just about winning, it was about settling a score that had been brewing for years. And when the bell rang, there would be no more jokes, just war. As the tension between Eubank Jr. and Benn reached its peak, even those outside the ring couldn't stay silent. Promoter Eddie Hearn, who has backed Conor Benn throughout his career, wasted no time reacting to Eubank Jr.'s egg-smashing stunt. Clearly unimpressed by the mind games, Hearn didn't hold back, calling out Eubank Jr. for what he saw as a disrespectful and unnecessary move. Eddie Hearn's blunt reaction summed up his frustration with Eubank Jr.'s antics, making it clear that he believed the stunt had crossed the line.
First of all, no, the presser, Eubank, quite amusing, right? At the end, move.
Yeah.
You've come on the stage with an egg. That's what it was.
We didn't even realise it.
We didn't realise that.
He smashed an egg on his face.
That's what I thought.
Hearn's comments only added fuel to the fire, with fans split between those who saw Eubank Jr. as a master of mental warfare and those who believed he had taken things too far. While some saw it as a clever way to mock Benn's past controversy, others, like Hearn, viewed it as a cheap shot meant to humiliate rather than hype up the fight. But no matter how people felt about it, one thing was certain: this rivalry had gone far beyond trash talk. With every word, every stunt, and every insult, the stakes kept rising. And when fight night arrived, there would be nowhere left to hide. As the dust settled from the chaotic press conference, Eddie Hearn wasn't done sharing his thoughts on Eubank Jr.'s controversial stunt. Having already slammed the move as a move, Hearn took things further, analyzing every detail of the moment. From the way the egg shattered to the calculated nature of Eubank Jr.'s actions, he made it clear this wasn't just some impulsive joke. In Hearn's eyes, it was a planned attack, designed to humiliate Benn in front of the world. But his warning was even bigger. If Eubank Jr. thought the mind games were over, he might have another thing coming. Hearn hinted that Benn's father, the legendary Nigel Benn, wouldn't take the disrespect lightly, and if Eubank Jr. happened to cross paths with him anytime soon, things could get real ugly, real fast.
Right, so we don't know what's happened.
Oh, wow.
But not being funny, like, listen, all I'm saying now, all bets are off. If you bump into Nigel Benn in the next 10 minutes, watch yourself.
Yeah.
Because the thing is with Eubank is everything is premeditated.
Yeah.
Everything.
That's
yeah?
lads, he thought
So
about that,
what
he
they've done is they've sat there at night and thought, I'm going to hit him round the face with an egg. That's all right. Some might find it funny.
That shell goes in your eye, you could be having
No, but not just that, Tone.
Fans were eating it up, debating whether Eubank Jr. was simply a master manipulator or if he had taken things too far. Either way, there was no turning back. The fight wasn't just about pride anymore, it was personal. And with emotions at an all-time high, the ring was now the only place left to settle it. With emotions running high, Eddie Hearn made it clear this rivalry had officially crossed into dangerous territory. After breaking down the egg-smashing moment and calling out Eubank Jr. for his calculated mind games, Hearn took his warning a step further. In his eyes, this was no longer just about pre-fight banter. It had become something bigger. He pointed out that if this had happened in a different setting, outside of a press conference, the reaction would have been much more serious, the kind of thing that could lead to real consequences. But now, there were no more limits, no more unwritten rules. Hearn declared that all bets are off, and that this fight had gone beyond the usual buildup. It wasn't just about getting in each other's heads anymore. This was now a full-fledged grudge match. And according to Hearn, once these two stepped into the ring, there would be no holding back.
Imagine you
listen.
in a head-to-head right now, you would actually, the police would be looking for you.
I'll be out the right. He's not.
But what I'm saying to you now is, listen, the game's the game, yeah?
That's a step.
A fight's a fight. No, don't worry about it's a step over. It's done. What I'm saying now is, all bets are off. Anything goes. You've gone to that level, yeah? I'm not even talking, I'm talking about Thursday at Spurs, right? It's on site.
The message was clear. This fight wasn't just about winning. It was about proving a point. It was about respect, revenge, and settling a score that had been boiling for years. And when fight night arrived, there would be no room for second chances. It was war. Just when it seemed like the situation couldn't escalate any further, Eddie Hearn further explained just how serious things had become. Having already declared that all bets were off, Hearn turned his attention to the deeper implications of Eubank Jr.'s stunt. He brought up Nigel Benn, Conor's father, a retired boxing legend and a man who had left his wild past behind to embrace a more peaceful, faith-driven life. But as Hearn pointed out, beneath that transformation, he was still Nigel Benn, and humiliating his son on a global stage, that was something he wouldn't take lightly. Hearn emphasized how, in the heat of the moment, nobody knew exactly what had been thrown at Conor. A shocking, unpredictable act like that had the potential to change everything in an instant. In today's world, moments like these go viral. They become entertainment. But for those directly involved, it wasn't just a joke. It was deeply personal.
People like Nigel, yeah, you know what I mean? Nigel's retired, right? He's a man of God. He's still Nigel Benn. You do that to his, you slap him around the face with eggs in his eye, yeah? When, again, everyone didn't know what it was at the time.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, we didn't even
It's okay. So, in the world we live in today, it's going to go viral. People are going to find it hilarious. Yeah, I get it. All I'm saying is, 5 minutes ago, everything changed. That's what I'm saying.
Hearn's chilling conclusion that 5 minutes ago, everything changed made the situation more alarming. This wasn't just hype anymore. This was now something raw, something real. And as the fight drew closer, the energy around it had shifted. This was no longer about boxing. This was about pride, family, and revenge. With tensions now at a boiling point, Eddie Hearn delivered a stark warning. This feud had gone beyond just words, and keeping the two fighters apart was now a serious concern. After the egg-smashing incident, the dynamic had completely shifted. What had started as mind games had turned into something personal, something dangerous. Hearn, who had initially played the role of a promoter hyping the fight, was now questioning whether the next press conference could even take place without chaos breaking out. As Eubank and Benn are scheduled to meet in another press conference on Thursday at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, but Hearn has warned that could be at risk. Hearn warned, "I don't know if we can do Thursday's press conference, to be honest with you, because it will be attack on sight. It won't be, have a sleep on it, calm down, because it's a one-upmanship." The bad blood between these two was no longer just for the cameras. Hearn made it clear that he wasn't just worried about Conor Benn reacting, he was also concerned about Nigel Benn getting involved. Hearn went on to explain why this wasn't just an overreaction. The egg wasn't just a slap, it was an object thrown straight into Benn's eye, a deliberate act meant to embarrass him. And in a sport where respect and ego matter just as much as skill, that crossed a serious line. He stated, "It wasn't a slap, it was with an object in the eye. From my point of view, it's unacceptable, but the game is the game. If you want to play those games, then the fun really begins, and it might not be the fun that people want." At this point, things had reached a dangerous place. Hearn was no longer just a promoter hyping up a fight. He was now actively trying to prevent an all-out war before the first bell even rang. He stated, "Certainly now, I could not let Conor Benn near Chris Eubank Jr. I could not let Nigel Benn anywhere near Chris Eubank Jr. Whether that changes over 48 hours, we will see. But these two need to be kept apart and they can't be anywhere near each other." As emotions continued to spiral, Eddie Hearn gave his most intense prediction yet. Conor Benn Ben wasn't just coming to fight, he was coming for destruction. With the press conference chaos threatening to overshadow the actual fight, Hearn shifted the focus back to what would happen inside the ring. And according to him, all the trash talk, all the humiliation, and all the bad blood had fueled Ben into a fighter with one mission: end Chris Eubank Jr. as quickly as possible. Strategy? Out the window. Game plan? Forget it. Hearn made it clear this wasn't about points or pacing. This was about revenge, and Ben was coming in with pure aggression.
Ben got hurt now. Conor may get hurt, but I'm telling you now, forget a game plan, forget a strategy. He's coming in with speed and ferocity to iron out Eubank inside 3 rounds.
Hearn's bold statement only added more fuel to the fire. Was this a genuine belief, or was he trying to get inside Eubank Jr.'s head even further? Either way, the message was clear. Eubank Jr. needed to be ready for a Ben that wasn't thinking, wasn't holding back, and wasn't stopping until he landed the knockout. The anticipation had never been higher. This wasn't just a fight anymore. This was war, and Hearn had just confirmed what many already suspected. Conor Benn wasn't coming to box. He was coming to end Eubank Jr. As the chaos of the press conference settled, reactions poured in from all sides. While many expected fireworks, few could have predicted the level of intensity that unfolded. Eubank promoter Ben Shalom, witnessing the madness firsthand, admitted that while the press conference had been electrifying, his stunt may have crossed the line. He stated, "It was a great press conference up until that point but I have to say that probably takes it too far. My God, that was mental. It will be interesting what happens on Thursday now." With another press conference scheduled, all eyes were on how things would unfold next. Shalom acknowledged that Chris Eubank Jr. wasn't the type to follow the script. He did what he wanted, whenever he wanted. That unpredictability, while great for entertainment, also made things dangerous. He stated, "Chris is uncontrollable in that situation. He does what he wants, he thinks what he wants, and we've seen what he has been like in press conferences this year. He's a man of his own, and if he feels like he's going to do something, he's going to do something." For Shalom, the entire situation was both shocking and captivating. While he admitted that things had gone too far, he couldn't deny that it was one of the most talked about events in boxing build-up history. The drama, the intensity, and the bad blood had now reached a level few rivalries ever did. He stated, "Too far for me, but unbelievable press conference and unbelievable entertainment." But the fallout was far from over. As Shalom processed the chaos, he had more to say about the growing tension, making it clear that this fight had become more personal than anyone had anticipated. As the fallout from the press conference continued, Conor Benn delivered his most chilling statement yet. This wasn't just about beating Chris Eubank Jr. It was about ending him. His words carried a different weight now. This was about revenge, about making sure Eubank Jr. didn't just lose, but that he never fought again. The intensity in his voice left no doubt. He wasn't here to play games, and he wasn't here to settle for a decision win. He wanted to finish Eubank Jr. in a way that would leave no room for a rematch, no room for excuses, just a definitive. The declaration sent shockwaves through the boxing world. Trash talk was expected, but this was something different. Ben wasn't hyping the fight, he was making a promise. Fans debated whether this was just raw emotion after the press conference chaos, or if Ben truly believed he could retire Eubank Jr. inside the ring. One thing was certain, the stakes had never been higher. This wasn't about belts, rankings, or money anymore. This was about pride, legacy, and ultimate destruction. And with fight night approaching, Ben's words made it clear. He was coming to end Chris Eubank Jr. for good. With emotions still running high, Conor Benn fired back with his most ruthless attack yet, dismissing Chris Eubank Jr. as a failed fighter and promising to end his career once and for all. Ben, still seething from the humiliation, refused to acknowledge Eubank Jr. as a real threat. Instead, he tore into his record, claiming that every time Eubank Jr. had faced true competition, he had crumbled. Ben wasn't just questioning his skills, he was outright calling him a fraud, someone who had never truly proven himself at the highest level. And according to Ben, April 26th wouldn't just be another loss for Eubank Jr. It would be his final fight, comparing what was about to happen to Eubank Jr.'s brutal knockout loss to Liam Smith. That defeat had left Eubank Jr. stumbling, dazed, and completely out of his depth. Ben promised a repeat, except this time it would be at the hands of a welterweight, something he knew would make the loss even more embarrassing. With every word, the stakes kept rising. This wasn't just about proving who was the better fighter, it was about legacy, pride, and survival. And for Ben, there was no doubt, when the fight was over, Eubank Jr. would have no choice but to walk away from boxing for good. After Conor Benn's relentless attack on his career, Chris Eubank Jr. finally fired back, not with insults, but with pure confidence. He wasn't just planning to win, he was planning to prove he was superior in every way. Ben had just belittled Eubank Jr.'s career, calling him a failure and promising to knock him out like Liam Smith did. But Eubank Jr. wasn't rattled. Instead, he calmly shut down the idea that size was the only reason he would win. While many pointed out the weight difference between them, Eubank Jr. made it clear this wasn't about size, it was about skill. Eubank Jr. claimed that in every single department he was the better fighter. The way he saw it, Ben had convinced himself of a fantasy, that he could step up in weight and take out a fighter who had spent his career facing bigger, stronger opponents. But in reality, Eubank Jr. believed that Ben had nothing in his arsenal that could trouble him. And while Ben was fueled by emotion, rage, and a need for revenge, Eubank Jr. remained composed. His message was simple: Ben cannot beat him. No matter how much trash he talked, no matter how much he hyped himself up, the outcome was inevitable. As the rivalry reached its peak, Conor Benn made it clear: Chris Eubank Jr. was nothing more than a stepping stone on his path to greatness. After all the insults, all the mind games, and all the heated exchanges, Ben dismissed Eubank Jr. in the most brutal way possible. To him, this wasn't just a fight, it was a temporary detour on his way to bigger things. His focus wasn't just on beating Eubank Jr., it was on making a statement, proving his dominance, and then moving on to capture a world title in his natural weight class. He stated, "He's just an opponent in my way that I got to beat, and you know once I knock him out, I move back down to 147 and win the world title." Ben's confidence was undeniable. He wasn't even considering the possibility of losing. In his mind, Eubank Jr. wasn't a real challenge, just another name on his record before he returned to 147 pounds and cemented himself as a world champion. His words sent a clear message. This fight wasn't about legacy or revenge for him. It was about business, and Eubank Jr. was nothing more than an obstacle in his way. But would this confidence fuel him to victory, or was he underestimating the challenge ahead? With the fight approaching fast, the talking would soon end, and the truth would be revealed inside the ring. As the dust settles from the wildest press conference in recent memory, one thing is certain: this fight is personal. Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn are no longer just two fighters looking to settle a score. They are two men who genuinely despise each other, and neither is willing to back down. From the egg-smashing humiliation to the heated exchanges and career-ending threats, the intensity surrounding this bout has reached a boiling point. Ben is fueled by pure rage, vowing to retire Eubank Jr. in brutal fashion. Eubank Jr., on the other hand, remains calm, convinced that he is simply the superior fighter in every way. Mind games, insults, and psychological warfare have defined the buildup, but when the bell rings, all of that will fade away. It will come down to skill, heart, and who truly wants it more. But what do you think? Did Eubank Jr. cross the line with the egg-smashing stunt, or was it a brilliant move to get inside Ben's head? Does Ben have what it takes to knock Eubank Jr. out, or is he underestimating his opponent's experience and skill? Will this fight truly be a career ender for one of them, or is it just pre-fight hype? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tune in for more videos like this as we bring you all the latest updates, reactions, and analysis leading up to fight night.